Costs less.
Staying dry with just the odd shower. Clear spells then tonight with some showers in the northwest and in eastern areas by morning. Lowest temperatures of 6 to 10 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Well, hello there. I trust you've all calmed down since the Aviva last night. Maybe you've rewatched the game a few times. If so, if your thirst is unquenchable, don't worry. We have Gary Breen coming up 7:30 to just give you a final reliving of Ireland-Gibraltar. Golf fans, a US Open at Pebble Beach is a rare and wonderful thing. Paul McGinley will join us from the Monterey Peninsula. That's coming up just after 8 o'clock. And then Carl Lacey, one-time Footballer of the Year in 2012, four-time All-Star actually. Hadn't fully realised he was winning All-Stars even before Jim McGuinness. He is now their defensive coach, and they put on a defensive masterclass against Tyrone at the weekend. So he's on the way around 8:30. Kieran Cunningham, chief sports writer with the Irish Daily Star, is here. You'll know all about Carl Lacey.
I do, yeah. I remember him, I think I first heard of him when he was around 14, playing in a competition called the Ted Webb Cup, which is for Connacht teams, but Donegal entered a few times, and they got their first team. It was managed, or the first good team they had was Carl Lacey was on, Damon McGee, Paul Dirk, and a couple others that made it. It was managed by Martin McHugh, and they won it. Andy Moran was in the Mayo team to beat them in the final, but
good vintage.
he was always really, he was talked up a lot from the way up. He was skinhead at the time, shaved head, Carl, and but I think he had 2 All-Stars before McGuinness came in, which were kind of bleak times for Donegal, which showed his quality. Yeah, and he was a man marker then, and then he was kind of reinvented as a kind of playmaking centre half back. So a fabulous footballer now.
He sure was Footballer of the Year 2012. So he's he's involved with Donegal now, as you know, in the coaching staff. He's their defensive coach. We'll talk to him around 8:30. No Richie McCormick this evening. Tom Malone is here. Hello.
Thanks, Joe.
Your first news round, Tom.
My first, my debut. Yeah. I've had my Ivan Yates debut a few moments ago, so I'm ready for anything now.
Don't let it be your last, Tom. Don't screw this up. No,
very similar personalities, Joe and Ivan, though.
Yes, we'll go for the same kind of question. I'm on Ivan Yates tomorrow talking golf. It's all happening.
Oh, you're fine.
Exciting times. So, Kieran, you were at the Aviva Stadium last night, I trust?
Yeah, it was not a funny weekend, but I was in Croke Park Sunday and the Aviva.
Right.
But Gibraltar, so there were just 2 such underwhelming days, because the day before, I watched Tyrone Donegal on TV. And you had that kind of tingle of anticipation or excitement, or there was an uncertainty about it. You didn't know how the game was going to go. It was the same the week before Champions League final, even though it wasn't a great game in the end. But beforehand, they really didn't know. I thought it was 50-50. And with Katie Taylor, Delphine Persoon, that even though she was a very strong favourite, I thought this was going to be a battle, and it turned out to be that way. Yeah. And you need that with sport. Like, I can't get this thing now that if you bring up how boring. Well, I'll get to last night in a minute, but
you don't need to.
Yeah, but if you bring up how boring Sunday was at the Leinster Championship, a lot of Dublin fans get very annoyed at that. But like a lot of them aren't going in the numbers they were going. But I can see. But it's a bit like. Do you remember Father Ted, the priest Brendan Grace played, called Father Finton Stack? Mm-hmm. He said, "I've had my fun, and that's all that matters." So they had this brilliant team to watch, but there's no contest. Yeah. It was 7 points to 1 after 12 minutes, and even though Dublin weren't really very good on Sunday, the game was over then. Like Kildare did have a couple of goal chances. They got to 4 points, within 4 points to them in the first half, but they won by 15 at the end. So how can anybody say that's enjoyable? No. Like genuinely, if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's a sad truth. I was funny you mentioned that, and Dublin fans maybe been a bit touchy about it. I was playing golf with a Dublin fan, massive Dublin fan this morning, who I had never met before. It was just like an open comp thing. And even he was saying it was a strange experience, the All-Ireland final last year against Tyrone. Yeah. An All-Ireland final shouldn't feel in any way flat, and just there was a touch of flatness because the previous finals had been so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an issue there as well. There's a couple of issues. Like I was looking through the age profile of the Dublin team.
By the way, damn you for taking us down Dublin bashing. 7 minutes past 7. No, Dublin, we love you. No, they're the greatest team in the history of the game.
And as individuals, I find them, the ones I've dealt with, I really, really like them. They're good fellas, very interesting people. But I was just looking, their average age, they've been roughly at the top for 10 years, more or less, like between semi-finals, finals, so that. But the average age has stayed at 25, really, the whole time. Oh, yeah. So when players retire, young players come in, it doesn't seem to make any difference. That shows they're not going anywhere. And if you take like Stephen Cluxton is 37, so if he wasn't there, the average age would probably be 24. When you think about it that way. But it's the one. Just one other quick point on it. The window of games that matter now for Dublin has got narrower and narrower, because you saw the crowds for their league games were down significantly. Like I think the Galway game was around 14,000 or something at home in Croke Park. The crowds for their 2 games so far have been poor. Last year, the Super 8s, remember, there was a lot of talk of the dip in the attendances for the Dublin Roscommon games compared to other years at that stage. So now you're looking, when are they fans going to go? Because they know the last time they played Meath in a final, they beat them by 16 points. Now they've beaten this year, in this year's championship, they've beaten Kildare by 15, Louth by 26. They've played 22 games in Leinster with Jim Gavin as manager. 20 of those have won by 10 points or more, and the other 2 were by 7 and 9 points. So nobody's getting anywhere near them. So if you have any interest, you just think, I'll do something else that day.
Well, let me reassure you, Kieran, the number of times where you'll be watching the Republic of Ireland, sure that they're going to win. I wouldn't worry about it. It's okay. That's probably us done now until about the start of the World Cup.
Or Scott Hogan trying to not head a ball with his shoulder, shuffling around. Did you think this is the future? This is where we are.
Obviously very grim, and it once again reassured us that we are no good at breaking down opposition, and this is a massive problem. However, we're not ever going to have to become adept at breaking down a parked bus. Like, this is just not a challenge that we're going to face every week the way Man City
But it wasn't even a parked bus.
It was like a...
Yeah, but they bodies back, but they're more or less amateurs.
They're 195th in the world. They deserve respect.
Yeah.
They're a hell of a team.
But I watched the analysis on RT, and so you saw the little clips of the goals, and I never... Right, the first goal I knew that it was so freakish because there were 2 ricochets and then an incredible deflection.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky to get that. But if you watch the second goal, it looked to me like it was a foul throw. No, foul throw from Seamus Coleman. The ball bounced.
But don't worry about that.
No, but very blatant. The ball bounced before it went onto the pitch, which you can't do from the throw.
Okay.
So it could have ended up as a scoreless draw, which would have been the worst result in Ireland's history. So that might dampen people's enthusiasm a little bit. But
I only listened to it on the radio, and so like you could hear the wind coming out of Nathan's sails after about 6 minutes.
It was very notable. Mick McCarthy was sat down for the first 10 minutes and then stood up and really started trying to inject some tempo into the thing, but it almost seemed like they were off on the wrong footing and they could never quite get it back.
Because you could hear Mick so much, because you got this kind of Proustian rush of like from 20 years ago of memories of the Celtic Tiger time when you were so used to his voice.
Yeah.
You're thinking nearly maybe it's time to buy Aircom shares again or Parpin to Bulgaria. But I think
he was obviously pretty defensive afterwards, as he was always going to be. But I guarantee you, if you bumped into him today in an off-the-record kind of way and said, "What you make of last night?" he would say it was shite.
Yeah,
he knows.
But what was interesting, I thought, when he did speak to Tony O'Donoghue, and he was a little bit prickly, but he said how flat the dressing room was when he went into it. And Shane Duffy in his interviews was very downbeat compared to Richard Coe, who was more upbeat, and Seamus Coleman was kind of in between. And I think that showed the players know. Like, if you go through the 4 results so far, Joe, under Martin O'Neill, they beat Gibraltar home and away, they beat Georgia at home, and they drew with Denmark twice away. Yeah. So based on results, nothing has changed. Yeah. You can argue performances are a little bit better, but it is a little bit better.
But like, look, the old Soccernomics book.
Yeah.
What dictates where a Premier League team finishes? The wage bill.
Yeah.
A manager makes virtually no difference.
Yeah.
And that is especially true in international football, where you can't really add players.
Yeah, but you look at the guys who are supposed to be your top players. Like Jeff Hendrick is one of the, plays regularly in the Premier League, a team that has finished in a decent position for the last couple of years. And he's been really underwhelming since the Euro 2016. And he was awful last night.
Yeah, it's becoming a real worry, the Hendrick situation. I thought when he scored the goal against Gibraltar away that we were going to see a bit of the old Jeff Hendrick, where he has the physicality to make runs. And look, maybe in a 3-man midfield he can, but last night it was fairly grim, all right.
Yeah, it reminds you as well, Joe, that if you hadn't had Wes Hoolahan, there were so many nights that could have ended 100%. Up like that he used to do something.
Do you know what?
That would just change a terrible result into a decent one.
I totally agree, and because we got to get started on the newsround here, but to surmise, Mick McCarthy said afterwards the plan was to go down the flanks. That was the attacking game plan, and fair enough. Like Coleman's final ball was pretty terrible by his standards, and be worried about McLean at this stage, but McLean and Stevens didn't create very much, and that's
it was very predictable. Like using Coleman overlaps so much, like it was really predictable.
Like he got into okay positions, but then the final ball was terrible. But then going through the middle is a non-event for Ireland, and like the standard thing that happens is a ball is fed into someone's feet. Say McLean, because I just vividly remember this moment, and Stewie Byrne beside me was just saying this has to change. And so, ball goes into his feet, and instead of taking it on the half turn and being almost in on their defence and can we slide a ball for someone, it's a very safe touch back towards your own goal. Gibraltar defender can push up on your backside, and you have to pass it back to either a centre midfielder or worse again to Duffy or Keogh. Whereas Wes Hoolahan will take that ball and turn, and we just don't have many players who can turn when they get possession, and it just limits. You can't go through a team like that. We'll kick on with the news round. Get your texts in. I'll get to a few of them now, what you made of last night. Tom, you're starting with the dates and venues confirmed for the qualifiers.
Yeah, GAA qualifiers. Corrigan Park is set to host the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship qualifier between Antrim and Kildare on Saturday week, although the GAA say the Belfast venue will be subject to an inspection ahead of the fixture, which will have a 3 p.m. throw. And it's got a 5,000 capacity, but I don't think that'll pass a safety inspection at the moment. So it's suggested that the actual capacity will be a bit lower. I don't know if we're going to have another Newbridge or nowhere scenario, but anyway, that's the situation there. Derry's match against Laois will be at Owenbeg at 5 o'clock, while Longford will play Tyrone at the same time at Pearse Park. There's a 6 o'clock throw-in for Westmeath's clash with Limerick and Mullingar, and Leitrim and Clare also at that time in Carrick-on-Shannon. And the All-Ulster clash between Monaghan and Armagh will be played at 7 o'clock in Clonus, with Down hosting league champions Mayo at the same time in Newry, while Offaly's match against Sligo will be played at O'Connor Park at 2 o'clock on Sunday, June 23rd.
Joe, Leinster's been so bad last few years. I think to get over 20,000 in Croke Park for the semi-finals was good. Why do people still go to those games? Kieran Cunningham, 100% right. It was awful in Croke Park on Sunday. I would go to every Dublin League game and Championship, but it's getting to the stage where I think I'm waiting for Super 8s to save a few quid, etc. Mark says, lads, when it comes to Mick, it's a case of hate the sin, not the sinner. The brand of football is a turn-off, but I'd take bad football with an approachable manager rather than bad football with a contrarian. There is something ultimately redeeming about the fact that Mick McCarthy is so likeable.
He is very likeable, but I covered Mick's first spell. Mick can be very much a contrarian too.
But I like that.
Yeah,
and by the way, Kieran,
but the things were often very fraught with Mick in the media before.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Nobody's that worried about Mick in the media here.
No.
People like him. In fact, they quite liked that he
But
had
a lot of the Martin
media.
O'Neill stuff was Martin O'Neill in the media.
But it was actually, he let himself down. It was rude.
Yeah.
It was really poor. It was almost uncomfortable, and it was every time. Whereas Mick is charming lots of the time, whereas O'Neill just wasn't at the end.
Not at the end, no. But I don't know. I think if you get, like, if they say lose to Switzerland the next game and pressure's on Mick. Well, actually, the thing is,
no pressure on Mick.
I was just about to say, sure, he could be gone anyway. He's just started. He's probably could be gone in 5 months' time.
Oh yeah.
You just sometimes remember that we're in this really odd arrangement. So there is actually if he loses, he's gone. I'm out the door in a few weeks.
Mick's down to his last 4 competitive games.
No, it's his bizarre.
He's already a lame duck manager.
Like, I always knew it was odd. But it's only when you're in the middle of it you realise how strange this situation is.
Well, on that point, it was just a political stroke.
Yeah.
Like, be under no illusion. Stephen Kenny deserves
it was Delaney land. It was classic Delaney land move.
Stephen Kenny fully deserves his chance. So I'm not saying he doesn't. But the succession plan locked in stone was a political stroke. And it was to save bacon. Somebody says, what are the FAI doing that we've no creative players coming through anymore? Where are the Damien Duffs and all the commanding centre midfielders we had going back? All the commanding centre midfielders we had going back to 15 years ago, wonders Carl and Tralee. Well, Carl, I think it's fairly obvious what the FAI have been doing the last couple of years. I mean, there's an Oireachtas committee or two you might want to have a look at. I'm not sure they've been getting the max out of everything. They're doing their best.
But in fairness, at underage level, like Tom Owen is a very good under-19 team at the moment. You have Troy Parrott at Tottenham, Jason Malumbi at Brighton. There's a couple of good players. Adam Mead at Norwich, Michael Obafemi at Southampton. But like the youngest player last night was Callum Robinson at 24. Like these other guys, it's going to take them a while to come through. And also, like, you look, there were 3 Irish kids at Liverpool. They were all released last week.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard. There's no guarantee any of these players are going to be able to kick on at club level. So that's a big concern.
That's why you need a vibrant League of Ireland as a fallback for them. Look, if Troy Parrott comes through and can score 40 goals as an international player over 15 years, then things will be a whole lot better.
That's one of the kind of depressing thing about the last couple of games. Like, David McGoldrick has been quite a bright spot.
Really good,
but he's 31. Like, he's a short-term fix.
No goals yet either is a problem. So no international rules series this year, Tom.
Yeah, I know, Crimea River, right? Ireland were due to host the latest instalment of the compromise rules contest with Australia, but no date could be fixed to suit either party. Australia claimed the last edition on their home turf back in November 2017. The US had even been considered as a potential venue, but again, the two associations couldn't come to an agreement on that.
Sam Bennett?
Yeah, well, good news. Sam Bennett claimed today's third stage of Criterium de Dauphiné. The Tipperary sprinter comfortably took the win in the central French city of Reims. The victory was Bennett's 7th stage win in 2019, and despite his recent form, he won't be taking part in next month's Tour de France. But he did chat to Eurosport about the closing stages of his ride, and indeed as well the chances that he's unlikely to ride in the Tour de France.
It was kind of hard to stay together because everybody's trying to stay up for GC and everything, and then with the sprinters. But then at the last moment, Shane said I'm still good, and he was still on my wheel, and he hit it and got me to 200 to go. And it felt really good in the final. But I want to thank the full team again. They rode really hard all day, and then the guys did a great job in the final, keeping me in good position. So I just want to thank the team again.
Yeah, 2 victories on Paris-Nice, another victory here on a World Tour event. You're establishing yourself as one of the best sprinters out there.
I'm trying. I'm trying to get a win in each stage race I go to. It's sometimes hard to do to keep that consistency all year, but bar Romandy, I've been doing pretty good in the stage races, so just want to keep this going now.
What's the next stage race?
I think next stage race is Bing Bang Tour.
So not the Tour de France?
No.
Thank you very much, congrats.
There we are now. The football on this evening, Northern Ireland.
Yeah, Northern Ireland looking to maintain their perfect start to the Euro 2020 qualifying this evening. Victory would make it 4 wins in a row for Michael O'Neill's side, which would be their best ever start to an international qualifying campaign. They go into the game on top of Group C, 3 points clear of Germany, and they're in Minsk to face Belarus from 7:45. He told Sky Sports News they've got to keep doing what they've been doing.
We know that those games are going to be huge for us and they're going to be extremely difficult. But normally when you play the big nations, you're behind in the group and you're hoping to try and take something from the game. We've got a chance if we can take maximum points to be in as strong a position as we can be, and that's all we can try to do.
The other game there in Group C sees Germany up against Estonia in Mainz. Wales will be hoping to get their campaign back on track following defeats to Croatia when they play Hungary away, and Scotland take on the world's #1 team, Belgium. Gentle reminder there, world #1. But they will have to do so without captain Andy Robertson for tonight's Euro 2020 qualifier. He misses that match due to a suspected hamstring injury.
David says, as long as Mick doesn't start trying to delude us into thinking that the team's display is the footballing equivalent of the Mona Lisa, then fair enough. I certainly don't think he was. He was saying he was being very pragmatic. I don't think he was saying it was especially good by any means. Here's a completely unfounded text I shouldn't read out in the airways, but it's just so damn exciting I'm going to anyway. Lads, Tiger is on his way to the Irish Open. It's going to be announced in the next 2 weeks, says Woodsy, in brackets, no relation. We'll see, Woodsy. We'll see. God, I hope you're right.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That would just be unbelievable. Tiger Woods on the fairways of...
Well, he was he in Donegal recently?
No,
was that a rumour? Yeah,
prank.
It was a prank.
Fake picture and everything.
Okay, yeah.
Kevin and Leitrim. I honestly find Mick McCarthy one of the most unlikable people in football. You can't please everyone. Every single answer is a sarcastic quip, and when pressed, he hides his contempt for Tony with even more snide sarcasm.
Yeah.
I would find Mick very likeable, I have to say.
Yeah, I find him likeable, but I think understandably there's a lot of baggage from his last time because of...
What happened? What was that?
Yeah.
We've got 90 seconds here.
I don't want, because some people will start texting.
I don't think
inevitably,
I don't think anybody
that went through that kind of Saipan mess and the way he was vilified, etc., is going to have a bit of baggage. So I think if things go bad again, I think a bit of that might come to the surface with him. Yeah.
But even scrap Saipan, is any manager great especially when they've won and they're being fired with questions? It wasn't very good though, was it? Like, it's not like Martin O'Neill was all flowers and niceness.
Well, there's very few managers other than Mourinho and maybe one or two others who in that situation would say, no, that wasn't good enough for my team or my players. You know, managers always back their players in public. Behind the door, locked doors can be very, very different.
I would think so, and I would think that was the case last night. Last couple of stories, Tom. The
Women's World Cup. Netherlands beat New Zealand earlier on by 1-0 in Group E. Jill Roord with the goal, and they're now joint top of the group with Canada. Chile and Sweden, by the way, that play was suspended for 25 minutes due to absolutely biblical rain in that one in Group F, but they're just back underway and it's still goalless in that. Well, tournament favourites USA kick off against Thailand at 8 o'clock this evening.
And I'm seeing the Lions are naming their head coach.
Yeah, I don't know who you think it might be, but it's Warren Gatland looks set to be named Lions head coach for the 2021 tour of South Africa.
He just owns that job, doesn't he?
Yeah. Why would he stop?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's tomorrow, is it? He's been named?
Yeah, expect that, yeah. And also 5 debutants have been named the Ireland under-20 side for the game against Italy in tomorrow's final Pool B game of the World Championship. Front rows John McKee and Michael Milner joined the second row by Thomas Ahern, flanker Kieran Booth, scrum half Colin Riley for that game in Santa Fe. John Hodnett and Stuart Moore, well, they've just been added to that absolutely enormous injury list for Noel McNamara's men. Some good news, though. Ryan Baird got cleared to play for that game after he got his red card at the weekend that lost to Australia. So Ireland need a bonus point win over the Italians and obviously results to go their way elsewhere as well. So it's slightly up against them, but I mean, there were 3 games in 9 days for under-20s. It seems like tough.
Well, like they've 10 injuries at the moment, which, you know, when you look ahead to the Rugby World Cup in Japan, like, how can anybody predict what will happen when you see the attrition rate in tournament?
What size squads are they going to have at Rugby World Cup in 4 years' time? 50?
Yeah.
It's going to be like Clive Woodward and his lines, isn't it? Like, just bring 45.
I should tell you before we go to the break, Off the Ball has teamed up with the Irish Blood Transfusion Service in supporting World Blood Donor Day. It takes place this Friday, 14th of June. It's all with a view to encouraging conversation around blood donation and to highlight why it's such an important habit to get into if you can. 1 in 4 of us will need a transfusion in our lifetime, be that you, someone in your family or a friend. All the blood used in Irish hospitals comes from Irish resident donors. Nearly 3,000 units are donated every week just to keep up with demand. At the moment, over 1,000 Irish people receive transfusions every week in Ireland. You can check your eligibility by visiting your nearest clinic. Go to giveblood.ie as well for more information. And you can search for GiveBlood.ie on social media and by using the hashtag #EveryoneCounts. It's ahead of World Blood Donor Day, which takes place this Friday, June 14th. So do get involved if you can. Kieran Cunningham, thank you.
No problem.
Much appreciated. Tom, what a news round. Phenomenal.
Well, absolutely.
Gary Breen's next.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Full Steam.
Episode 1 of Full Steam, our new series profiling women in tech, is available now on newstalk.com.